This is my presentation for the places we will be visiting in Greece. So the first place is Delphi. Delphi was an ancient religious sanctuary dedicated to Apollo. It was developed in the 8th century. It was home to the Oracle of Delphi and the priestess Pythia, and Pythia was famed throughout the ancient world for divining the future and was consulted for all major undertakings. It was home to the Pythian Games, which was the second most important games to Greece, and Delphi declined to rise of Christianity, and it was ultimately buried under the site of a new city until the 1800s. This site contained a sanctuary of Apollo, Athena, and various other buildings, which most were intended for sports. So the Delphi Archaeological Museum is a historical museum dedicated to exploring the history and exhibiting artifacts from archaeological sites of ancient Delphi. The museum exhibits statues, sculptures, and everyday items found in Delphi. It also explores the history of the city. And it began as a small museum in 1903, but became too small to accommodate the findings and number of tourists coming in to it in the 1930s, and construction of the new building began in 1935 and was finished in 1939. The mission of the museum today is to present the exhibits in a way that they compose a historical novel. The Temple of Apollo, the ruins of the Temple of Apollo are situated on their own terrace at the top of the sacred temples of Apollo at Delphi. Little of the temple remains as Christians destroyed it following the anti-pagan edicts of the Emperor Theodosius in the 4th century. The temple has been recreated to look like what it would have with the help of excavation and information from ancient sources. Three phases of the temple's life have been identified, as well as fragments of decorative detail, and the temple's architecture is not like the standard ancient Greek temple. The ruins of Delphi travel to Athens. Delphi is 180 kilometers away from Athens, and there's multiple ways of travel, including car, bus, and organized tour. The Athens Delphi Highway offers a stunning view of Greek countryside and passes through charming villages. And the transition from the bustling streets of Athens to the tranquil countryside of Delphi has a dramatic shift in the scenery. Some general history on Athens. The city began as a small community of the Mycenaean civilization and grew into a city that was associated with the development of democracy, philosophy, science, math, drama, literature, art, and many other aspects of the world culture. The founding place of the Olympic Games was in Athens. The city was burned in 400 BCE during the Persian invasion and rebuilt by the statesman Pericles. It became the superpower of the ancient world through its military and wealth. After Greece was conquered by the Ottoman Empire in 1458, Athens entered a long period of decline until the country won its freedom from the Turks in 1821. And today, Athens is the capital of Greece and among one of the most visited places and has high regard for cultural center. The Olympic Stadium, also known as the Panathinaik Stadium, was built for the first modern Olympic Games in 1896 in Athens. It was built on the site of the ancient stadium used for the Games of Panathinaia. The stadium is the only one in the world made completely out of marble. And the games were banned by Emperor Theodosius on the basis that they were a pagan celebration. Evelio Zappos attempted to revive the games in 1870 and 1875, and the stadium was built in 1895 before the games. The Syntagma Square, which is the central square of Athens, is the modern history of the city itself and the central points for visitors in the Greek capital. The square, along with the Onomana Square, are completely intertwined with the history of the city and Greece and in general from King Otto's reign until today. It is usually the main starting point for sightseeing in Athens because most of the landmarks are under a mile away from it, and it is the second largest square in Greece under the Svidania Square in Corfu. The Parthenon is a resemblement marble temple built between 447 and 432 BC during the height of the ancient Greek Empire. This temple was dedicated to the goddess Athena, and it sits atop a compound of temples called the Acropolis of Athens. Throughout the centuries, it has withstood earthquakes, fires, wars, and explosions. Also lootings, but lootings sometimes don't happen. It is estimated that 13,400 stones were used to build the temple at a total cost of around 470 talents, which is roughly $7 million US today. The Temple of Athena Nike was completed in 420 BCE during the restoration of Athens after the Persian invasion of 480 BCE and was designed to greet those visiting Athena's complex. This Greek temple stood for almost 2,000 years until it was dismantled by the occupying Turks of the Ottoman Empire in 1687, who used the material as a defensive wall. And after Greece won its independence, the temple was rebuilt in 1834. The Palka district. It is located in the heart of Athens and can't be accessible by car. Palka is filled with numerous taverns, colorful shops, and attractions during the day, and at quiet bars at night. And there are many small churches as well as a mosaic, a Hammond, and the first University of Greece in this area. The Temple of Olympian Zeus. It is also known as the Olympion, which is one of the biggest ancient temples in Greece. The temple was completed by the Roman Emperor Hadria, who completed it around 132 AD. And the temple dominates a large archaeological site near Sycamore Square. The temple sits in the quiet corner of Athens. Cape Sunion. It was an important ancient Greek religious sanctuary sacred to the gods Poseidon and Athena. The site is dominated by the Temple of Poseidon, perched off on the cliff edge 70 meters above the sea, and it is the setting for several episodes in Greek mythology and is specifically mentioned as a place of religious significance in Homer's Odyssey. The ancient Greek temples of Poseidon. The temple was built in 440 BC on the southernmost tip of the Attica Peninsula. The classical architecture is mostly Doric style. The temple is no longer fully intact, but when it was, it resembled the Temple of Hephaestus, and it is a religious structure complete with a hall of worship. The temple was built on top of ruins of a previous structure that was destroyed by the Persians during the Greek anarchic period in 480 BC. And here are my sources.